Thank you. Okay, my name is Tim Colopy. I'm the mayor of the Village of Millbrook. This is the May 26, 2021 meeting of the Village of Millbrook Board of Trustees. It's a special meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Seated. So could the clerk do a roll of the trustees? Roll call.
Mayor Colopy,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Herzog,
Here.
Trustee Contino, still waiting, Trustee Arbogast,
Here.
and for the first time, Trustee Anson.
Here.
Okay, thank you. So you can see the agenda on the screen. Basically, two topics. First is to welcome Leslie. And then the second is a special meeting we've got on the police reform plan. You can see there's three things we want to accomplish under this police reform plan, the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Kind of out of order. The first thing we're going to do is B, we're going to review the civilian complaint procedure and form. Then we're going to go to C and do a resolution to pass the civilian complaint procedure and form as a resolution. And within there, we will appoint the village resident who will be part of this CRB. All right. So first off, as a welcome into Leslie, I'd like her to give a little intro. Before she does, I'd like to just go on the other trustees and just give her a very brief, less than a minute intro of who we are. So I'll start with saying I'm Tim Colopy. I'm the mayor of the village, been the mayor for the last 5 months. I was the deputy mayor the past 2 years. And I've lived in Millbrook for the past 15 years with my wife on Franklin Avenue. All right. And here's Vicky is joining us. So Mike, why don't you give a little intro yourself, even though you and Leslie have already met. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Mike Herzog, deputy mayor right now. I've been on the board for going on 10 years now. So I'm the old horse in the group here. Not saying that the memory is as good as it should be in terms of remembering everything we've done for the past 10 years, but I try. Retired teacher and resident of Millbrook for 35 years, and looking forward to working with Leslie.
Okay, Vicky, I know you just joined. Just asked for a little intro of yourself to Leslie. And you're on mute.
Welcome, Leslie. Congratulations. I am a trustee. I was elected for the first time last November, seated as an interim trustee last September. I live on Haight Avenue, and I'm relatively new to the village as well as being newer to the board. But I have a long background in government, so there are issues that are very familiar to me, even as I'm learning the issues that are of import to the people in the village. So I look forward to working with you and sharing what I know and learning much about what you know about the village. So thank you for joining.
Okay, Buffy.
Hi, Leslie, and welcome. I am Buffy Arbogast. I own Babette's Kitchen, a local business owner, homeowner in Millbrook. I've lived here for about the last, I guess now 15 years. I'm probably the newest member on the board, so a lot to learn, but really enjoying my time. So welcome.
Okay, and then now a half-hour presentation by Leslie. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm a quick talker. It's nice to see all your faces, meet all of you, some of you for the first time. I'm Leslie. I actually started my life in Millbrook. I lived in Millbrook till I was about 10. And then I came back to the village about 2 years ago, and I live off Elm Drive. I've been actually teaching at Millbrook Middle School for the last 10 years. I teach 6th grade math at the middle school. And I recently joined the Millbrook Educational Foundation, so I'm also on the board for them.
Great.
And I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be a lot of learning for me, but it's a great new challenge.
All right, good. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you on the board. I know you're going to be learning a lot of stuff here. I think you should take a couple weeks to get your feet wet in with whatever way you want. I do want to meet with you sometime before our board meeting on June 9th, just to take you through one of my favorite pet peeves, which is the budget. And so figure out some time when we can get together at your convenience. We'll get a mutual time that's available. We'll meet at the Village Hall just to go through the nuances of the budget, because I think it's important for you to understand what that is and how we do that. All right?
Perfect. Sounds good.
Okay, then let's move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is the crux of the meeting today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the complaint procedure and the form. And as I read through it, I'll be open to any edits, corrections, or comments that people want to make as we go through it. And then we'll go through the form at the end. And then if that's all acceptable to everyone of the trustees, then we will go to a resolution and actually make it a formal passing of this complaint procedure. All right?
Mhm.
So here it is. You may have hard copies, but I'll just read this one. I'm going to go through it line by line. And again, stop me along the way if you have questions, comments, or corrections you want to make. So this is the Village of Millbrook Civilian Complaint Procedure. The purpose is to define the procedures to file a complaint, investigate the complaint, and determine the appropriate actions to resolve the complaint. The procedure is multi-step as follows. Step 1, complaints shall be filed with the village mayor at the Village Hall in writing using the attached civilian complaint form containing the following information: name, address, and phone number of complainants, date, time, and location of incident, name of the officer, employee, or official against whom the complaint is being filed, witnesses to the incident, including the names, addresses, and phone numbers of the witnesses, statement of the incident, and signature of the complainant. In the footnote, just go to the bottom. I want to note the footnote here is false statements made herein are punishable as a Class A misdemeanor pursuant to section 210.45 of the New York State Penal Law. Okay. So that's the information that's needed on the complaint form. You'll see the form in page 3. Let me go on here. Any complaints initially made verbally or by phone call or email must be followed by submission of a signed complaint form. Any complaint made directly to an officer of the police department or an employee or official of the village must be forwarded by such officer, employee, or official to the mayor. In the event the mayor is the subject of or a witness to the incident alleged in the complaint shall be filed with or referred to the deputy mayor. Okay, that's item 1. Item 2, the mayor or his designee may determine the appropriate action and attempt to resolve the complaint. If the mayor or his designee deems it necessary, the complaint will be referred to the Community Review Board, or CRB, which shall be comprised of the deputy mayor, an appointed non-trustee resident of the village, and the officer in charge, or OIC. If the OIC is the subject of the complaint, then the deputy mayor will appoint another Millbrook police officer to replace the OIC. Number 4, reappointment of the resident member will be considered at the annual village reorg meeting, which is in January of each year. If there's no questions, I'm going to keep going, all right? Number 5, the CRB shall, to the extent possible, maintain the confidentiality of the complainant, the officer, employee, or official against whom the complaint is being filed, and any witnesses throughout its investigation. Number 6, the CRB will meet to review the complaint and decide how it will investigate the matter. This shall include interviewing the complainant, the officer, employee, or official, and any witnesses to the incident, plus any other means necessary for the CRB to fully understand the issue. Number 7, the CRB will then present its findings and recommendations in a written report to the Board of Trustees of the village. Number 8, the Board of Trustees will then determine what actions will be taken. Number 9, the officer, employee, or official will be notified of the results of the investigation and the recommended action by the Board of Trustees. Number 10, the complainant will be informed by the mayor of the outcome of the investigation. Now, before I go on to the form, any questions, comments, or suggested changes? Officer Witt.
So just, I mean, under our current status as employees, we're at will employees as police officers. There is no union present at this time. If the complaint is of a criminal matter, would the employee be afforded counsel from the village? So in my part-time job, we are a part of a union, and we have a union appointed lawyer or a union retained lawyer for things such as this. If it happens to be a criminal matter, would an employee, whether, since this includes everyone, would an employee be afforded a representation at the cost of the village to defend themselves?
Okay, here's what I'm thinking. And by the way, I think maybe Vicky can help me out here, but I'm thinking that if the complaint is criminal nature, it's going to get referred to the courts. It's not going to go to the CRB or anything here. It's going to go referred to the courts. And as such, we have liability insurance. We're indemnified for, again, and assuming this is associated with the job, while you're on the job, this happened, this criminal thing.
Right.
And I would think that we would be covered by insurance to provide the appropriate protections. Now, wait a minute. So before I go any further, Vicky, or maybe Mike knows from past experience, do you have any comment or understanding of that better than I do?
Becky, go ahead.
Vicky, you need to go off mute. I wanted to know if you have any comment about that.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm just
Okay.
looking for the protection of my officers,
Yep.
clearly.
Well, actually, your comment is related to all employees of the village.
Correct.
So Mike, do you know anything to say there?
Well, I know that when we did the ethics board, the ethics code and put that into play, it says directly in the ethics code, which was passed in 2013, I believe, that if there is any, in the course of the any investigation, if it becomes apparent that there is something of a criminal nature which has been uncovered during the investigation, then the matter will automatically be turned over immediately to the proper authorities, meaning the Attorney General of New York, State of New York, so that it would then be turned over to them for any further consideration.
That's the prosecution of it. But as for the defense, if it's job related, I'm inquiring if a lawyer will be available for any of the employees. I understand what you're saying, that the prosecution will be turned over to the Attorney General, but for the defense of employees.
Okay, so look, I will follow up with both our legal advisors, Josh, as well as Mary Liberatory, our insurance provider, and get you an answer to that question. It's a good question. Actually, I think it's kind of independent of this discussion, isn't it?
It's kind of, I mean, if it depends on what the complaint is, it's semi-independent, but it's also concurrent with this.
All right, so I'm going to say this. This discussion is for non-criminal accusations.
Touche. So then, as a village matter, then we can look into that separately.
Yes.
I would appreciate an answer for that, to give clearly, my officers some ease of mind or just the information alone.
No, I think we all need to know that, not just employees, but even as public officials. We need to know that that's true.
I think we may already have a procedure in place. I don't know if it's formalized. If there's an allegation, whether there's a civilian complaint authority or not, what happens with the police or any other employee when there isn't a union? Do they get representation, and how do they get it?
Okay. All right, so I'll take that as a follow-up, and as I said, I'll talk to Josh as our legal consultant, and I also talk to Mary Victoria as our insurance provider. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I was happy to see the shall include interviewing in number 6 as opposed to may include.
I was lectured numerous times this week on the difference between shall and may by numerous people, by the way.
And again, number 6 is not to imply that anyone has to give up their Fifth Amendment rights to self-incrimination, but the opportunity does and should be given to all employees to have the chance for an interview.
Absolutely. Actually, it's in my mind, it's kind of like a necessary requirement to get the full story.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I replaced your shall with a will.
The may with a shall.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, the may with a shall. I still can't get it right.
That's all I really have to comment on this. I know that it's under the headline of police reform, but again, we've seen that it's kind of morphed into all in village employees, whether elected or employed.
Yeah,
So.
Ian McDonald from Josh Mackey's office kind of took the ball there, and I think I appreciate that.
It's nice for me to see that in this day and age that at least we're gonna include all employees and not just one department. So.
Okay, good. Anyone
Hey, Tim.
else? Yes, go ahead.
Could you scroll up to the first page?
Yes.
We had a question about, or someone wanted to look at it, so.
Okay, good. Am I scrolled high enough, or?
I don't know. Seal, is that good? It is also available on our website under our Zoom tab if anyone
Yeah.
wants to look at it after the meeting or during the
She
meeting.
still has a question about it, or she just wanted to see it?
She said she wanted to see it.
Okay, fine.
I wanted to reread the first part in case I had a question about it.
Okay, fine. You okay?
Just one second. And so on number 2, no, I don't mean to be funny, but if the mayor or his designee determines appropriate action and the complainant disagrees, does it automatically go to the CRB?
That's a good question. I would say so. I think the idea of number 2 is that I would like to be able to resolve the complaint, at real time, on the spot kind of thing, if I deem it simple enough. But you're right. If the complainant says, no, I don't agree with that, I don't like your answer, then I think it's obvious that it then would go to the CRB. Yes.
Okay, as long as it's obvious. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it is to me, I guess. Maybe
It wasn't obvious to me, but all
All
right.
right. So should we put some words into that effect?
Seems like you could.
Yeah.
Now, my opinion, at least for my department and generally speaking for the village, I mean, if it's clearly outlined in one of the approved policies, we understand that we're going to go through our policies and procedures as a police department through and to the conclusion of 2022 to make sure that they're done appropriately. But I would see that, number 2, if the mayor feels a complaint that is clearly not in violation of the policies present, I would seem that you should be able to resolve that right at your level before it continues any further. Right? That's my
think-
understanding of number 2.
I would tend to agree with that because it says right in here that we are going to take great pains to be able to try to keep the confidentiality of the complaint and the proceedings and the people who, the person who is possibly having the complaint lodged against them. But since, you know, it's not just applying to police, but to all employees, I think that this is something that should stay within the mayor's jurisdiction, because the mayor is the person who essentially, according to NICOM, has the ability to direct employees and to be able to supervise employees. And once you open it up to the Civilian Review Board, you're now opening up every employee of the village to scrutiny to the general public. And I'm not really sure that that's appropriate. I mean, I want transparency, but unless the complaint's about the mayor himself and he wants to turn it over to his designee, that's a possible exception. But otherwise, no, I don't think it should be automatic that it goes to a civilian review board, because a personnel matter between one of the trustees, a deputy clerk, you know, anyone like that, I don't think is necessarily open for public review.
Now, under number one,
Wait, let's stay with number 2 here, all right?
Okay.
So Celia, you got your hand raised?
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to me to be a matter of confidentiality, because it does say clearly that you'll do your best to keep it confidential. My only is, what other action does a citizen take? Do they have to go to a lawyer? Do they have to go to above the mayor? It seems to me that the Civilian Review Board would be confidential. And also, isn't it not two, maybe I'm wrong, 2 employees? I thought it would be a citizen of the village and, or I guess a citizen of the village and an employee. What would their next step be if they disagree with the mayor or his designee?
I would recommend that the person talk to another trustee, and if that trustee is supportive, that would bring it to the board. That would not go to the CRB until.
Well, then it would no longer be confidential.
True.
well, it
Then
would,
they
it
have
would
to
still,
speak up.
it would still maintain its confidentiality with the new trustee. I mean, the term
Not if they bring it
confidentiality.
to the board, unless it's
Yeah.
executive session.
Well, all of this should be happening during executive session. You're not going to have a civilian review board operating in front of everyone, because it's going to be a hearing, and you don't necessarily have statements by the complainant and statements by the officer and other things,
Or other
yeah.
employee.
or other employees, thank you, or other employees in a public matter. Whenever there's either something to do with an employee's background and a complaint that's lodged, we don't discuss that in public. That goes to executive session. That's what one of the things executive session is for.
Well, that's why I thought the Civilian Review Board would be confidential. And I'm just wondering, what other means does someone have if they disagree with a single person? I have questions about a single person making that decision. That's all I'm saying. So it's something to think about.
Yeah, I would, again, refer them to another trustee. Same thing I would do with employees. If they don't like the direction I'm given or an opinion I provide, I've already told all the employees that they're more than welcome to go to a trustee and say, you know, here's what he said, here's what I believe, I like your support in this, and get it resolved that way.
All right, I'll inform people of that.
All right. Let's see, Officer Jared, you had a comment about number 1? You're on mute now. Okay.
Yeah, my wind chimes and the storm blowing in were causing some feedback there. So,
Okay.
just if on number 1, if it's against possibly the mayor, maybe the general public doesn't know exactly who the deputy mayor is at the time. I know that you have a plan to rotate trustees through that. That possibly the complaint could be submitted to our department, to my department, just as another route for the, with transparency for the public to be able to file the complaint against the mayor's office or position.
Say that again. You're saying that as an alternative to the complainant going to the deputy mayor?
Well, I just, as a member or having knowledge of sometimes the lack of knowledge of the general public, who the deputy mayor is at the time, maybe add in there that complaint could be filed with my department, so that it could be referred to the deputy mayor.
Okay, so I guess the sentence right above there. So we're looking right here. In the event the mayor is the subject, blah, 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 it goes to the deputy mayor.
Right.
The boss says, if you do get a complaint to any other employee or official division, that employee is supposed to refer it to the mayor, or in this case, to the deputy mayor.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I don't want,
Yeah,
I don't want, I don't want to stay with,
I just
any
want to
other-
make sure that it was clear to the general public that,
well.
like you said, it is, I guess it is listed up there.
Yeah, okay. And again, I expect you and the other employees to understand this procedure. So therefore, if you are presented with such a complaint, you know where to send it.
Absolutely. I'll make sure, once this is adopted, I'll make sure to disseminate it amongst the ranks.
Okay. All right.
I had a question, Tim. If it's
Yes.
possible. In the original draft that we came up with and before it got submitted to Ian for review, we had a clause in there that guaranteed that all officers, and in this case, officers and employees' rights will be respected during the process. And I don't see that in there now. Was that unnecessary, deemed unnecessary, or just curious why it disappeared?
I think this item 5 was the replacement of the maintaining confidentiality was the response, I would say, from Ian as far as covering that aspect.
Well, a confidentiality, I understand, but I'm just saying, I know that you and I had come up with a statement that basically said that all the rights of all employees and not just police officers, but all employees would be guaranteed during the process. And that's one of the reasons we turned it over to Ian to say, make sure, even though they're not civil service employees generally, and under that category are covered by the union, that they have the same inherent rights that any civil servant would under the circumstances of an investigation and a review. So that's why I asked why it was not there, but I didn't have any conversations with Ian, so I don't know anything more about it.
I'll have to ask Ian.
Okay, well, that was,
Mike, are you saying for these purposes, they should be treated like civil servants? Or are you saying like there are any legal or constitutional rights they may have would also be applicable in this kind of proceeding? Because they would supersede our policy and they would be applicable. But I think if you're saying you want to incorporate civil service rights or rights that are inherent in civil service, that would have to be stated, because I don't think that would be automatic.
okay, well, I was thinking more the latter, Vicky, just in terms of the idea that obviously not just the police department, but, given the microscope that most police officers seem to be under at the moment, but all employees, that all through the process, they would be guaranteed basic rights. Now, I said, we asked Ian to look at this. We asked him to look at it through the lens of making sure their rights were protected. And since there are some civil service legal guidelines for it, that's pretty much where we were thinking and where we're going. But It may not be necessary, but I thought it was important for the sake of the employees and for the police to know that they would have pretty big, they would have rights, and this wasn't going to turn into just some kind of arbitrary.
All right, so there's two things first off, I can pull up the red line version of what Ian did. And then we can see what he did to change that section. Or I can actually call Ian and ask him to join the meeting. What do you want me to do?
I
I
think,
think it would be most beneficial to have him join the meeting because then he could give live feedback. As Deputy Mayor Herzog said, the microscope that police are under in this day and age often does not afford them the rights of due process that would be
Ian,
normally
Tim Colopy, can you join the meeting now?
afforded to
There's a question
to
about
an average
change in
citizen.
the proposal.
Often police officers are convicted in the,
Oh, you're
in the
en
court of
route?
public
Okay.
opinion without the being afforded due process that any average citizen would have been afforded.
All right, so let me just, I've got Ian on the phone. Let me just give him the wording. He's driving, but let me see if I can paraphrase what Mike said. In the draft that we'd sent you, we had a section that talked about the need to make sure that we guaranteed the basic rights of the person who was being complained about. Do you remember that section? All right, so in the form that we'd sent to you before you did your revisions, we had a section in there that talked about the need to maintain or guarantee the basic rights of any individual that a complaint was being made about. Okay. And what you've done here is you have now a section that says to the extent possible, maintain the confidentiality of the complainant. Mhm. Yeah, so, okay, so the confidentiality is there. And I think there's agreement that that's necessary. But there's also a question about whether or how we're ensuring that the person the complaint is being made against feels as though their basic rights are being guaranteed. Yeah.
Right.
What do you mean by that? Yeah, okay.
So,
yeah, I
you
think.
know, I don't
that's a
necessarily
good
have a
point.
problem with it. But when you say basic rights, I'm not sure exactly what that.
So Mike,
I don't.
all right, so Mike, could you just explain again what you had said before on the section?
Well, I know that our police department are not civil service employees covered under CSCA or necessarily a set of guidelines through civil service.
Okay, stop there, Mike. Ian, can you hear him?
I can, yeah.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
And basically the intent of with the language that Tim and I had come up with was to try to make sure that without coming up with a very specific set of what your rights are, that the people who are coming in front of the review board would know that they would have rights and that would be taken care of and that would be afforded to them. So as I use the term, I didn't want it to turn into a tribunal where some person was walking in with or without legal representation. That's another thing, but making sure that their basic rights were being guarded. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do that anyway. I think I don't have the document in front of me, but I think what I was getting at, you don't necessarily need to say that. Boards this committee or board, or whatever you call it, the job, it's just going to be to accept the complaint submitted, investigate, and then refer and make a recommendation to the board. This committee is not going to have any authority to determine outcomes or conclusions or discipline. That's going to be up to the board of trustees. This committee is just going to conduct an investigation. I guess you could make a statement like that. I just get nervous about things like that. The committee's got to follow the rules that already apply. And when you're dealing with civil service protection, people that have civil service protection, there are rules they have to follow for that. But that's for discipline. This committee is not going to be doing that. It's just going to be investigating. So I just, I tend to shy away from broad statements like that, but it's not really clear what, again, the people that are involved, the complainant, any witnesses, the officer or official that is the subject of the investigation, they all have their own respective rights. I don't know that you can compel anybody to submit to an interview or investigation or anything like that. So I just don't like to, a broad statement like that really doesn't, to me as a lawyer, doesn't say much anyway, because I know that, people have different rights already, whether you say it in this document or not.
Okay.
And just making a broad statement like that doesn't, I guess I'm reluctant to make any type of statement that might create rights where they don't exist anyway. And I don't know that it, a statement like that adds much to the document anyway, because the parties involved already have rights. They have whatever rights they have.
Okay, so Mike, does that make sense? Did you agree with that or not?
I understand what he's saying. I guess I'm just trying to make sure that, that the people coming in aren't feeling overwhelmed in any way, like they were, that they have some idea of exactly what is going on. And
No, I said, okay, so you said what your concern was. You heard Ian's response. Do you agree with his response or not? If not, we have to take this offline.
I don't see any harm in putting that in, but I understand what he's saying, that, we don't have the power to discipline, and therefore there's no need to necessarily have a statement about their rights. But I would assume that the people involved who are having a complaint against it would like to know that their rights are being protected. That was the purpose in the first place, but I'll let someone.
Ian, do you think that we can maybe put something in the negative, like nothing herein contained is meant to abridge any rights or legal protections the employee might otherwise have? I think that affirms that if there are protections under the civil service law or the Constitution or anything else that should apply here, this is not meant to override that. Not that it could, because it's only a policy, but that would give the kind of assurance perhaps to the employees without creating any new rights or ambiguities that really shouldn't be there. I'd throw that out. You may not be able to answer right now, but I think it might be something to think about.
I'm no lawyer, but I am experienced within the black and white written law, and I tend to agree with trustee Contino. Again, just the negative of it shall not override, and like she said, it is only a policy, but just the acknowledgement that this isn't superseding anything else would and should be a comfort to any employee that's in the position to be in front of the CRB or this process in any portion.
Good one. Good one.
All right, so Ian, do you hear that?
I couldn't hear that last part. I would just say, again, I don't know that it's really going to harm anything by including that statement. To me, it just doesn't really add much of anything, and you know, why add something that risk you can't take away rights that people have. They have those rights. This committee has a very limited role. They're just there to investigate. And so you can say a broad statement like that, you know, parties involved will, you know, the committee, their rights. I guess it doesn't, I guess my only concern is that, you know, why make that statement at the risk of you know, creating rights that weren't there, that you don't necessarily have to give. You know, there are certain rights that you have to give people, but again, the committee that doesn't have subpoena power, you're not, if somebody says, you know, if the committee asks somebody to come before it for an interview or discuss the matter and they say no, there's really nothing you can do. You don't have subpoena power or anything like that.
Okay, so
I think I understand what Mike is getting at.
Yep.
That you don't want people to feel threatened by this committee.
Mhm.
And you know, I understand that. To me, I just, why make a statement if you don't have to, and risk having it misconstrued, misunderstood, misinterpreted, whatever it is.
okay, so good. So Ian, so we hear your position is that you'd rather not make such a statement because of what you just said. So Mike, do you?
Correct. It's
All right, so
not necessary to make it.
Yep, I got it.
You know,
All right, so I want to pull the trustees now. So Mike, what is your
Yes.
opinion? Do you want a statement in there or not?
I like the statement in there, and I like the way that Vicky had worded it in terms
Okay,
of,
all right, fine. So let's go on. Vicky, so do you want a statement in there?
I don't think it will hurt, and I think it will provide the kind of assurances that Mike
Okay,
and Jared are getting at.
okay, and Buffy?
I don't know, I sort of disagree just because it's a review board.
Mhm.
So that's what this is. So I can't say one way or the other. I'm not a lawyer, but it is a review board. It's
Yeah, okay.
not.
All right, so and Leslie, you know, you're new, and so you could really take a non-position at this time. It's really, you know, you're welcome to an opinion. It may be too new
Yeah,
for
I
you.
mean, from what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like it's necessary. So it could go both ways, but I guess if it would help, if it would save in some way, then fine. And if not, then keep it short and sweet.
Mhm.
hey, Mayor, it's up to you.
Well, I'm siding with Ian.
Okay,
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, Vicky?
If you mean comfortable in the sense, will I vote for this? Yes, I think we should have one.
All right, so if
But
you
I
and
don't
Mike,
think it would hurt.
so you and Mike want one, you and Mike want a statement to that effect?
yes,
That's what I'm hearing.
right. But it is a democracy, and if the opinion is 3-2, then it doesn't go in. So it's, you know,
Okay, so just be clear, I think we should, I side with Ian. All right. Mike and Vicky, you both want a statement in there?
yes.
And Buffy?
I agree with Ian.
Okay. And Leslie?
No pressure, Leslie.
No pressure, right.
Oh, and I thought I said didn't have to do this part. So would it hurt us in some way to have it, I guess is the question. Would it end up hurting us to have it?
Well, I think Ian's point is that it makes it's the risk of creating white rights that are not there. So that's the risk.
Yeah, I don't think that that's a big risk, but my point would just be why take it? I don't think that you add, in terms of providing rights to people, I don't think that just including that sentence really adds a lot, but there's a risk that somebody misinterprets it or,
Mhm.
you know,
There's no added value. It's just short and sweet.
I think the you know, the potential benefit is outweighed by potential you know, detriment or negative
Mhm.
interpretation of that. So that's all. I don't think it's gonna. I can't say that I have a really strong opinion, and if the board feels that you prefer to put it in, just put it in. I don't think it is.
All right, so good. So look,
It's going to ruin the agreement, but my advice is that the risk outweighs any potential benefit by adding it in. You don't get very much, but there's a risk somebody misinterprets it, misconstrues it, something like that.
okay, so look, so again, because we shouldn't be putting Leslie on the spot so early, unless Vicky or Mike will change their position, I think we should go and put something in there. I don't support it, but I think we should put it in just to allay their concerns. So Vicky and Mike, you still want something. Is that true?
I would, but
Vicky?
But
As long as the something is a negative, I don't think we should have an open-ended,
No, I understand.
whatever
but
that
you-
language was that you initially had.
Yeah, but you want
just
something
think-
that talks to basic rights.
No, that says that we don't mean to, with the adoption of this policy, abridge any rights that may exist.
Yeah, okay, all right. That's just the negative of what I just said. Okay, fine. All right, so look, so I think we should then take this offline and go add that statement in there to the satisfaction of the board members so that we're covered, and despite what Ian has recommended, okay? Agreed?
great.
Sure,
Buffy?
sure.
Okay, and Leslie?
Welcome to the board.
Yeah, right. Okay, any other topics to discuss on this complaint? So basically, we're at a point now where we're not going to go to a resolution tonight because we need to go back and make some changes to the procedure as defined here. Any other things on this defined procedure that you want to discuss?
Well, if you want to, you know, if you want to adopt that tonight, because I understand there's a, you know, you've got a little bit of a time issue here.
Mhm.
You could do that as a, you know, just note that you can handwrite changes to it, and either Sarah can make the changes or I can, and you know, you put it in the record that way. But you can, the resolution, I don't think needs to be changed probably, but just the
No, but the resolution,
policy itself.
but the resolution is acceptance of the procedure, the policy we've identified, right?
Right, and you could just note on the record, it's as amended with the handwritten changes, and then make those changes to the policy.
All right, so then I'd like someone to propose the wording that'll go under item 5A that'll
Mayor?
address what the concerns are. So Vicky, I'd like you
Mayor?
to take a shot at that, given that you had some suggested wording that was in the negative.
Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah,
As concern for my employees, I mean, I'm gonna express my concern of you passing a resolution that can be amended by handwritten amendments at a later date. I don't think it's acceptable to what now applies to all of village employees and elected officials to pass a resolution accepting this procedure and allowing for handwritten additions at a later time.
No, wait, okay, so we're not talking about handwritten additions at a later time. The
That's what,
question is, can we make a handwritten addition now?
oh, now, yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
no, yeah, in the future, any changes to the procedure have to go through the same process.
Okay.
Okay,
I just wanted to seek clarification on that because
yes, okay.
uh,
So the question to the board is, either we're gonna table this, take it offline and discuss these items we went over, or we have a proposal right now that we can write in to this procedure, that'll get typed later, that we can all agree on, that allows us to move on to the resolution. So is there such wording?
I'd like Vicky to take a shot at it without
Yes,
trying
I
to
said-
put her on the spot, and that's fine. And then,
And by the way, Vicky, if you're not comfortable doing that,
I think I have something with, and Ian can correct it. I would just say nothing herein contained shall abridge any rights the employees may have under the law or constitution. That's it.
that sounds good to me.
I'm okay with that.
all right, so read it again slower.
Nothing herein contained shall abridge any rights the employees may have under the law or constitution. Which is kind of redundant, but
I mean, that is really.
Mr.
I
Mayor,
mean, are you guys you really want that? That is like, really?
as
You're implying this procedure has any chance of abridging a person's rights under the Constitution?
Mr. Mayor, to me as a former union president at my part-time job, I feel like I can speak for the 5 employees under my charge, that would just afford some assurances to them, because like I stated previously, often police officers are convicted in the court of public opinion much prior to their due process afforded by the Constitution or the civil service law. So at the very least, just adding that to just give reassurance to any village employee that they're going to be given the due process. I don't see the harm in including that. And in fact, I think that would make your employees feel at least valued at the least.
I'm biting my tongue now. Okay, let me just read it back. Nothing herein contained shall abridge any rights the employee may have under the Constitution. Is that what you said?
the law or constitution.
Under the law or Constitution?
Yes.
Okay. Ian, did you hear that?
And I think you could just say under the law, but I'll defer to Ian on that.
I think I'm okay with that. It's relatively innocuous. Nothing in here is going to change any, rights that anybody has under the law. That's fine.
All right, I'm going to say it again. Nothing herein contained shall abridge any rights the employee may have under the law or Constitution. Everybody agrees?
I'm good with it.
Comfortable with it just stopping at law. You don't even have to add, the law is the Constitution.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And we'll add that. Sarah, how should we add that? Should we add that as a, can we do that as a number 11? at the very end, or do we need to stick it in there after 5?
Um,
Any
That's a good
preference from those on the call?
Either under 5 or under 6, either way.
All right, so let's do it under 5 then. We'll make a new number 6 and push everything out 1.
New number 6.
All right, here's what I'm thinking. Given these changes and discussions we've had, I think we should table the resolution until the board meeting. Let's make these changes. Let's send them out to the board. Make sure everyone's okay with it.
I don't think we have to do that. We're rating 1 sentence, Tim. Why put something off for 2 weeks that we can pass tonight that everybody seems comfortable with?
All right, Vicky, Buffy, what do you think?
I agree.
Buffy?
Yeah, if it's gonna be worded in the, code or whatever, the resolution as stated, then I'm fine with it.
Okay. I think the resolution still stands as it is. All right, then we'll add that sentence. Nothing herein contained shall abridge any rights the employee may have under the law. Everybody agrees?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Any other points of discussion about the procedure?
No.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so Ian, I think we're done with communication with you. I appreciate you being available for this call.
Yeah, no problem. If you need me, I'm about 2 minutes away from home. Once I get there, I'll have access to a computer and I can join the meeting if necessary. Just shoot me an email.
I will, if we need you. You should assume that we won't need you, but I appreciate the offer.
Okay.
Thanks, have a good evening.
Anytime.
All right, goodbye.
Yep.
Okay, just note for the record, this is the one time I did agree with lawyers on what was to be done, but anyway, that's overdone. Okay, so we're all set with the procedure. Here's the form, which basically includes the items that were in number 1 above. All right, that's attached to the procedure. Don't think you should be any concern about that. There is a statement at the bottom. I wanted to just read that. You may not be able to read it, see it, by the way, on the screen, but let me just read it. Once you sign the complaint, I understand that this statement may be the basis of an investigation. I state that the facts stated herein are true and accurate to the best of my knowledge under penalty of perjury. This statement has been made by me voluntarily without persuasion, coercion, or promise of any kind. I understand that the employee against whom this complaint is being made may be entitled to a hearing if any disciplinary proceedings result, and that I agree to testify under oath concerning all matters relevant to this complaint during such hearing. And then there's a note, as said before, false statements made herein are punishable as a Class A misdemeanor pursuant to section 210.45 of the New York State Penal Law. Everybody okay with that statement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if the procedure is agreed to with the change that we've included, I want to now go to the resolution. So I'd like to get a motion from someone on the trustees to introduce the resolution.
I'll motion.
And can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'm going to read through the resolution. Resolution number 8 of 2021. A resolution adopting a civilian complaint procedure and establishing a community review board. At a special meeting of the Village of Millbrook Board of Trustees, the Village Board, held on the 26th day of May, 2021, Trustee Arbogast introduced the following resolution, which was seconded by Trustee Herzog, reading as follows. Whereas the Village Board believes it is in the best interest of the village to establish a formal procedure for the members of the community to report incidents of misconduct by an officer, employee, or official of the village, and the manner in which such incidents are being investigated and resolved. And whereas the Village Board further believes it is in the best interest of the village to establish a community review board to be comprised of, now we're going to make a change right here. be comprised of the deputy mayor, comma, and Clerk Sarah will duly make the change on the resolution, right, Sarah?
Yes,
To be
sir.
To be comprised of the village deputy mayor, comma, an appointed non-trustee resident of the village and the officer in charge of the village police department for the purpose of reviewing and investigating incidents of misconduct and reporting its findings and recommendations to the village board. And now therefore be it resolved, the village board hereby establishes and adopts the procedure annexed hereto as the civilian complaint procedure of the village to provide a formal procedure for civilians to report incidents of misconduct by an officer, employee, or official of the village. And be it further resolved, the village board hereby establishes a community review board, or CRB, with the authority to review and investigate incidences of misconduct of an officer, employee, or official of the village, and report its findings and recommendations to the village board in accordance with the attached procedure. And be it further resolved, the village board hereby determines the members of the such CRB shall be comprised of the deputy mayor of the village, an appointed non-trustee resident of the village, and the officer in charge of the village police department. And be it further resolved, the village board hereby appoints Mike Murphy as the initial appointed non-trustee resident of the village to serve on the CRB. The foregoing resolution was duly put to a vote, which resulted as follows. Clerk Sarah, please do the roll.
Mayor Colopy,
Yes, yay.
aye.
Aye.
Trustee Herzog,
Aye.
trustee Contino,
Aye.
trustee Arbogast,
Aye.
No, by the way, Leslie should know if she wants to abstain, she's more than welcome to, so it's up to her.
trustee Anson,
Aye.
Okay. All right, dated Millbrook, New York, May 26, 2021. Sarah J. Witt, Village Clerk, Village of Millbrook. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll get the addition included into the type form and send it out for you all tomorrow, okay?
Right.
All right, so does that conclude our discussion about the Civilian Complaint Review Board and Procedure?
I think so.
All right, very good. Let's go back to the agenda. So first thing is, do note that quick as a bunny, June 9th will be our regular monthly board meeting, 6 p.m. And before we leave, I just wanted to give you an update on a variety of things that are going on. Shouldn't take too many minutes here. First off, just let you know that the newsletter, the May newsletter will be coming out tomorrow. Thanks to Leslie for quick as she can getting in her mugshot plus a little write-up about herself to be put in the newsletter. So we're highlighting her as well as Deputy Clerk Nicole. It's all the note response to the request from Heather. And what I've asked is that the Shade Tree Committee get together and make a presentation at a future board meeting. Probably won't be June, but sometime in the future with recommendations for what we should do as far as further discussions and cutting or trimming of trees. So the Shade Tree Commission, which consists of Mike, Bob, and Kevin McGrain, will meet and go through that and make a recommendation. I forwarded to the trustees tonight feedback from the guy at HBO. Everyone knows that August 16th, they'll be in town. Actually, they'll be in town the day before and the day after, August 16th, doing some filming around the Millbrook Diner for the movie, The White House Plumbers. And as the note says that I forwarded to you, there'll be about 100 cast and crew that will be here for the filming. They're going to be parking up at St. Joseph's, but they will be staying overnight in either Fishkill or Newburgh. They won't be staying locally, but they did promise they would be using the local food vendors, at least for lunch and for coffee. So we're looking forward to that. You'll see in the note a lot of other discussions are occurring in order for us to prepare for that, which includes police control of traffic in the village during their filming time. Some bad news, I got a rejection from EFC for the funding request we had to kick off and generate a report for what's needed for improvements to our sewer infrastructure. And so remember, this was like a $60,000 report that was going to cost to generate this report. We were going to pay about 6,000 of it. My numbers might be quite off. But anyway, Delaware Engineering put together a request to get funding for that report. It was rejected. And so now as a follow-up, I've talked to, and I'm getting letters of support from Deidre Houston. I got a letter of support today from Marcus Molinaro, and I'm also seeking a letter of support from Sue Serino, just to help us respond again and resubmit our request for that funding. And I got a rejection also from a request I made to New York State DOT for traffic calming around the Flagler Monument. And basically, Vicky helped me with the wording for that request. And they came back and said that they rejected the accidents as being at all related to the area, that it was because of sun in the eyes of the drivers, and it was not an issue associated with that circular area. And they were not willing to come out and do another audit or survey like they did a few years ago. So I'll talk to Vicky about that offline as far as what we can do to pick it up, but that was also rejection.
And my department will continue to keep you in the loop if there's anything else involved with the monument.
And by the way, Officer, when you were going to go have your guys do some monitoring of speed there, how's that going? Are you able to do that without jeopardizing the safety of the officers?
Due to a recent storm there, the one place that would be sufficient to run that data was occupied by a fallen tree, and it's recently been cleaned up. So and within this week, we'll issue out another a 2-week trial on that to run data and radar in the area. But previously, it was occupied by a fallen tree.
Okay. Are there any questions about those items I just gave a brief update on?
For me.
Anyone else have anything that they want to comment before we end the meeting?
Nope.
Okay, thank you all for your participation. And look forward to seeing you all on June 9th at the monthly board meeting. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You need a motion to adjourn?
Oh,
Oh, yes,
can I get a motion to adjourn
I'll make
I'll
that.
make-
motion.
Okay,
in a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey.
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Night.
Good night.
I'll get this right yet.